It's 1898. Somewhere in England, a woman named Lucy Deane is writing a government report.
A factory inspector.
One of the first female factory inspectors in British history, and she's doing something no one's ever done before. She's documenting what asbestos does to the people who work with it.
A government report. Published.
Published by Her Majesty's Stationery Office, circulated to policymakers across the British Empire. And here's what she wrote.
Go on.
Quoting, "The evil effects of asbestos dust have also instigated a microscopic examination of the mineral dust by H.M. Medical Inspector. Clearly revealed was the sharp, glass-like, jagged nature of the particles.
Sharp, glass-like, jagged.
And where they are allowed to rise and to remain suspended in the air of a room in any quantity, the effects have been found to be injurious, as might have been expected."
As might have been expected.
That's 1898. 3 years later, Johns-Manville merges two companies to create the largest asbestos manufacturer in the world.
Knowing this report exists.
Knowing it was available. Whether he read it, we can't prove. That it was public, that we can prove. This is episode 11, The Corporate Architects.
Asbestos, a conspiracy 4,500 years in the making, is brought to you by Danziger and Diano, a nationwide mesothelioma law firm. For over 30 years, they've helped families understand what happened and what comes next. If you or someone you love is facing a mesothelioma diagnosis, visit dandell.com. That's DANDELL.com.
Let's stay in 1898 for a minute, because Lucy Deane wasn't working alone.
There were others?
Adelaide Anderson, Girton College, Cambridge, third female factory inspector ever appointed, 1894. By 1897, she's running the Lady Inspectors, leading a team of women investigating industries that employed women.
And asbestos work was considered women's work.
The sifting, the carding, the textile operations, the dustiest, most dangerous jobs, those were the jobs women did.
So the female inspectors were the ones who saw it. The men were too busy inspecting what exactly?
Steel mills, coal mines, the prestige industries.
The ones that didn't involve watching women cough.
Lucy Deane writes the 1898 report. Adelaide Anderson backs it up. 4 years later, Anderson includes asbestos in an official list of harmful industrial substances, published in the annual report for 1902.
So who read these reports?
Anyone who wanted to. That's the thing about government reports. They're not secret. They're filed, published, distributed. The information existed.
And the industry?
No documented response. No rebuttal. No, actually, our product is safe. Just silence and expansion.
Bold strategy.
Here's what makes 1898 extraordinary. It's not one event, it's 3.
At once.
Event 1, Lucy Deane's report. British government officially documents asbestos danger. Sharp, glass-like, jagged, ascertained cases of injury to bronchial tubes and lungs.
Government warning, public record.
Event 2, same year, Henry Ward Johns, the founder of H.W. Johns Manufacturing Company, dies.
The asbestos guy.
Started in 1858, New York tenement basement, age 21. Built an empire on asbestos roofing. Patents, factories, a national brand.
Cause of death?
Asbestosis. He was 40 years old.
The founder of the American asbestos industry.
Killed by his own product, age 40.
That's not a red flag. That's a red flag factory.
And that's 2 events. What's 3?
There's more?
London, Charing Cross Hospital. A physician named H. Montague Murray examines a patient. 33 years old. 14 years working in an asbestos textile factory. First 10 years in the carding room. Quote, the most risky part of the work.
I remember Murray's patient.
Yes, the one we mentioned last episode. He would die in 1900. He would become the first proven fatal case in medical literature. But the examination starts in 1898.
Same year as the British report. Same year as John's dying.
3 different data points. 1 year. Government warning, founder death, index case examination. And 3 years later,
The merger.
Johns-Manville. 1901.
Great timing.
December 21st, 1906. Dr. Murray testifies before Parliament.
About his patient who died in 1900.
The Departmental Committee on Compensation for Industrial Diseases. They're deciding which diseases should qualify for workers' compensation. Murray tells them about his patient.
What did he say?
Quote, "The patient volunteered the statement that of the 10 people who were working in the room when he went into it, he was the only survivor. I have no evidence except his word for that." He said they all died somewhere about 30 years of age.
10 people. 1 survivor. All dead by 30.
The man was dying. He told Murray his coworkers were already dead. All in their 30s. All the same symptoms. And Murray wrote it down.
What did Murray find in the autopsy?
Lungs stiff and black with fibrosis, asbestos fibers embedded in the tissue. His conclusion? Workroom dust had produced the scarring.
So he told Parliament. He gave them everything. Testimony, autopsy, 9 dead co-workers.
And here's where it gets tragic. Murray also said this.
Oh, no.
One hears, generally speaking, that considerable trouble is now taken to prevent the inhalation of the dust, so that the disease is not so likely to occur as heretofore.
He thought they'd fixed it.
He believed improvements were being made, that his case was a relic of the past, that the industry had learned.
The industry had learned, just not the lesson he hoped.
The committee added 6 diseases to the Workmen's Compensation Act. Asbestosis was not one of them. Nobody checked on the factory. Nobody investigated the 9 dead coworkers. No follow-up.
6 diseases, and they looked at the guy who just described 10 dead coworkers and said,
Not enough.
what would have been enough? 11?
That's the question, isn't it? Same year as Murray's testimony, 1906, France.
Different country, same story?
Denis Auribeau, Departmental Labor Inspector at Caen, Normandy. He investigates an asbestos factory near Condé-sur-Noireau. Spinning and weaving mill. Established 1990.
What did he find?
Quote, during the first 5 years of operation, no artificial ventilation ensured direct evacuation of siliceous dust. This total non-observance of hygiene rules caused numerous deaths among the personnel. Approximately 50 workers, men and women, died in the aforementioned period.
50 workers, 5 years.
1 factory, in Normandy. And that number,
How do we know it's accurate?
the factory's new director confirmed it in 1905. He'd been foreman since the factory opened. He watched it happen.
So an eyewitness corroborated 50 deaths in one building.
In 5 years.
What happened after Auribeau's report?
It, too, was largely ignored.
Of course it was. Speaking of documentation that got buried, if someone in your family worked in an industry that didn't track worker health, the team at Danziger and Deane knows how to find the records that do exist. Dandel.com.
So let's talk about who built the machine. 1901, the Johns-Manville merger.
Johns is dead.
3 years. And here's what's strange. 1898 to 1901, who ran H.W. Johns Manufacturing?
His heirs?
That's what every source says. His heirs. No names, no individuals. 3 years of leadership and nobody's name is attached to it.
3 years of leadership by ghosts, apparently.
It's a gap. Either the interim leaders weren't important enough to record, or someone decided the record shouldn't exist.
It's convenient.
And then Manville shows up.
Enter the hero.
Thomas Franklin Manville, TF. His father, Charles, founded Manville Covering Company in Milwaukee, 1886. Pipe insulation. By 1900, the business passes to TF, and in 1901, he unites the 2 firms.
Why Johns-Manville and not Manville-Johns?
Johns was older, 1858 versus 1886. Johns had the patents. Johns had brand recognition.
Johns was also dead, killed by the product.
The name survived. The warning didn't.
Inspirational. Put that on a motivational poster.
By 1908, insurance companies are raising premiums on asbestos workers
Because they're seeing claims.
because the actuaries are doing math. And by 1918, we have documentation. Frederick Hoffman, consulting statistician for Prudential Insurance, he writes a report for the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, Bulletin number 231, page 178.
What does it say?
Quoting, "It is generally the practice of American and Canadian life insurance companies to decline asbestos workers on account of the assumed health injurious conditions of the industry.
Insurance companies refuse to cover them.
Too risky. Asbestos workers died too young. The actuaries calculated it. Their conclusion? Bad bet."
So the insurance companies figured it out. Before the doctors acted, before the government intervened, the actuaries just ran the numbers.
And the numbers were clear.
Math doesn't care about your business model.
Nope, it doesn't. 1921, 3 years after Hoffman's report, the U.S. Bureau of Mines produces a film.
A blockbuster, I'm sure.
Silent, black and white, 67 minutes, titled The Story of Asbestos, illustrating the mines and factories of the H.W. Johns-Manville Company.
The government made a commercial with the company name in the title.
Distributed to schools, civic organizations, churches. Bureau of Mines lending its authority to Johns-Manville.
Nothing says safe workplace like government propaganda in Sunday school.
23 years after the British report documented evil effects.
3 years after insurance companies refused to cover workers.
And you can watch it today.
Wait, this still exists?
Library of Congress, free streaming. Government propaganda from 1921, preserved for anyone who wants to see it.
That's not ignorance.
No, that's architecture. Johns-Manville wasn't alone. By 1901, the industry is global.
Who else?
Turner Brothers, Rochdale, England, founded 1871. By 1879, they're the first British company to weave asbestos with power-driven machinery. By 1926, 5,000 employees. By 1961, 40,000.
They'll matter later.
Nellie Kershaw, episodes to come.
Who else?
Keesby and Madison, Philadelphia, founded 1873 as a pharmaceutical company. They made headache remedies.
Headache remedies to asbestos? That's a pivot.
Richard Madison, actual medical doctor, Penn Medical School, never practiced a day of medicine.
The Hippocratic Oath must have had a loophole.
He found that mixing magnesium carbonate with asbestos creates superior insulation. He moves the whole operation to Ambler, Pennsylvania, builds 400 worker homes, an opera house, a replica of Windsor Castle.
I'm sorry, a replica of Windsor Castle in Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania.
Very normal behavior for a headache remedy salesman.
They called him the Asbestos King.
Of course they did. I'm picturing an ancestor of the Tiger King.
And today, Ambler has 2 EPA Superfund sites, 1.5 million cubic yards of asbestos waste, $25 million in cleanup costs, and counting.
A doctor built that.
A doctor who knew what lungs were for.
And what they were worth.
So that's 1901. Lucy Deane's report is 3 years old. John's is 3 years dead. Murray's patient is 1 year dead. Insurance companies are watching the mortality tables, and T.F. Manville creates Johns-Manville.
Did he know?
We don't have a memo that says T.F. Manville read Lucy Deane's report. We don't have a document that says ignore the British warnings. What we have is this. The information was public. The pattern was visible. They built anyway.
For how long?
We have a document from 1935. Sumner Simpson, Johns-Manville executive, writes to the company attorney, "The less said about asbestos, the better off we are."
1935.
37 years after Lucy Deane's report. Same company, same strategy.
The quiet part, out loud, in writing.
In writing.
Next time.
Episode 12. Asbestos and the Brake Pad Revolution. The moment asbestos stopped being an industrial product and became something in every car on the road.
Companies kept meticulous records, production volumes, shipping manifests, insurance policies. They knew exactly how much asbestos left every factory.
They just didn't track what happened to the people who handled it.
But those records still exist. Somebody just has to know where to look.
Paul Danziger and Rod Diano have spent over 30 years turning corporate documentation into cases, finding the exposure, building the evidence. Nearly $2 billion recovered for asbestos victims and their families.
If you're listening and thinking about someone, a parent, a spouse, yourself, who worked in one of those industries where nobody counted the workers,
Dave Foster, Anna Jackson, the whole team help families navigate what comes next while the attorneys build the case.
dandell.com. That's DANDELL.com.
The asbestos industry built an architecture of denial. This firm has spent 3 decades dismantling it.
Next week, Episode 12, Asbestos and the Brake Pad Revolution.
Oribo.
You practice that.
Condé sur Noireau. I practiced all night. French names, every time.
The insurance thing is what gets me every time.
Which part?
That the actuaries figured out before the doctors acted on it. Like the math was right there.
The actuaries didn't need to know why. They just needed to know it cost money.
That asbestos workers were dying.
In their 30s and their 40s, earlier than they should have.
So they ran the numbers and the number said,
Bad bet. Don't cover them.
math doesn't lie.
Math doesn't have a business model to protect.
Also, a medical doctor built a castle
A replica of Windsor Castle in Pennsylvania.
with asbestos money.
And now it's a Superfund site.
That's poetic in a horrible way.
History usually is.
See you next week.
I'll be back with more sunshine and rainbows.
Sometimes it is just a monologue, but we just keep it moving and we keep it going because I'm a